Have you ever wondered if you're doing something every day that's quietly pushing people away, even without realizing it? As we age, many of us focus on staying connected, respected, and emotionally grounded. But sometimes, the habits that slip into our daily lives during these later years aren't just harmless. They can silently isolate us. This video isn't about judgment. It's about shining a gentle light on the things we do without noticing. Things that could slowly wear down our relationships, our sense of dignity, and the way others experience us. These are the small, unconscious patterns that 99% of people over 55 engage in at some point, and most don't even know they're doing it. And some of these behaviors may surprise you, not because they're dramatic or extreme, but because they're so common, so everyday, that they fly under the radar. That's exactly why they're dangerous. I've spent over 10 years working closely with older adults, helping them navigate not just the physical aspects of aging, but the emotional and social shifts that come with it. One truth always stands out. Aging gracefully isn't about looking younger. It's about becoming wiser, softer, and more intentional. But that starts with awareness. In this video, we'll uncover 9 subtle but damaging habits, each one explained with clarity, real-world perspective, and practical advice tailored for this stage of life. And I promise you, by the time we reach number 4 and 5, things get deeply personal. These are the ones that even the most mindful seniors often overlook. So when we get there, I invite you to pause, reflect, and if anything hits home, please drop a 1 in the comments. If not, leave a 0. Your honest feedback helps us keep making videos that truly matter. And while you're here, go ahead and hit that like button. It tells us we're on the right track. Subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss future insights made with care, just for you. Because aging isn't about giving up. It's about growing into the version of yourself that's still curious, still evolving, and still full of value. Let's take that journey together, one honest truth at a time. 1. Monopolizing conversations, when sharing turns into overshadowing. As we move through our later years, we carry with us a treasure chest of stories, moments from our youth, lessons from work, experiences with family, and the kind of wisdom that only time can provide. And naturally, we want to share them. In fact, it's not just natural, it's beautiful. But there's a fine line between storytelling and dominating a conversation. And too often, without even noticing, we cross that line. It usually starts with the best of intentions. We want to pass down what we've learned, to offer perspective, to connect. But when we steer every discussion back to our own past, we risk leaving little room for others, especially the younger voices around us, to feel heard. In doing so, we unintentionally create a one-sided dialogue where connection turns into monologue. Younger people may begin to feel that their experiences are less valid, or that there's no space for them to contribute. And that, over time, can push them away. From a professional perspective, I've seen this dynamic play out countless times in families, friendships, and social gatherings. The root of it isn't arrogance, it's longing. A longing to still be relevant, to feel needed, to be seen. But the irony is, when we dominate conversations, we actually make others feel unseen, and we, ourselves, may end up feeling more isolated. Here's something to try. The next time you're in a group setting, mentally set a story limit. Share one meaningful story, and then shift the spotlight. Use phrases like, "That's just my experience. What about yours?" Or, "I'd love to hear how you see it." These simple invitations show humility and spark connection. Listening, especially at our age, is one of the most generous gifts we can give. It tells others, you matter too. When you become the kind of person who listens more than they speak, people notice. They lean in. They feel safe. They respect you not just for what you've lived through, but for the grace with which you hold space for others. In the end, the most powerful stories aren't always the ones we tell. They're the ones we invite others to share. 2. Excessive bragging, when pride becomes distance. And speaking of conversations, there's another subtle habit that can quietly close the door on connection: excessive bragging. It's one thing to feel proud of your achievements, your children, your career, your resilience through life's storms. You've earned that pride. But when that pride turns into a constant need to prove or highlight what you've accomplished, it begins to create distance rather than closeness. Most of us don't even realize we're doing it. We think we're simply sharing joyful news or offering inspiration. But the truth is, when pride becomes the main focus of your conversations, especially with people who are struggling, it can come across as dismissive, or worse, tone-deaf. I've spoken with countless older adults who unintentionally made their loved ones feel less than by constantly talking about their grandchildren's achievements or their own financial security. They weren't bragging to boast. Often, they were trying to affirm their value, to remind others and themselves that they still matter. But here's the catch. When you're truly confident in who you are, you don't need to keep saying it out loud. Your presence speaks for itself. Try this instead. When you want to share something you're proud of, pair it with a deeper reflection. For example, instead of saying, "My daughter just got promoted again," you might say, "Watching her work through setbacks over the years taught me a lot about patience and staying humble." Now you're not just sharing an outcome, you're offering a human experience. You're creating space for others to connect, not compare. And if you're in a group where someone else seems to be struggling, maybe with their own family, finances, or health, ask yourself, is now the best time to highlight my success? Sometimes the greatest kindness is in restraint. Remember, true dignity doesn't need to raise its voice. It shows up in quiet confidence, in empathy, and in knowing that your worth has never been measured by applause, but by how deeply others feel seen in your presence. Let's move forward now to another habit that creeps in silently with age, one that's less about what we say and more about how we see others from the very beginning. 3. Judging people by first impressions, the trap of assumed wisdom. After years of experience and observation, it's easy to feel like we've seen it all. And with that comes a subtle temptation to quickly size people up based on their appearance, age, background, or even a passing comment. But here's the truth. First impressions lie more often than they lead us to clarity. This isn't about malice. It's about habit. Over time, we develop patterns, ways we read people, protect ourselves, and make sense of social cues. But when we rely too heavily on those patterns, we risk missing out on truly meaningful relationships. We start labeling people before we've really met them. And without realizing it, we build walls instead of bridges. I've seen this play out with clients and seniors I've worked with over the years. A neighbor assumed to be unfriendly, a young nurse dismissed as inexperienced, a quiet grandchild mistaken for uninterested. Yet in each case, once true connection was made, those initial judgments crumbled, and something beautiful took their place: understanding. Here's something to reflect on. Have you ever been judged unfairly because of how you looked, your age, or a moment of silence? If so, then you know how heavy that misunderstanding can feel. Now imagine unknowingly doing that to someone else, just because of how they dressed, what they believed, or the tone of their voice. Instead of defaulting to judgment, try pausing. Lead with curiosity. Ask open-ended questions. Try, "What's been on your mind lately?" Or, "Tell me something you're passionate about." These are not just conversation starters. They're invitations to connect. And remember, people are always more complex than they appear. A grumpy neighbor might be grieving. A loud teenager might be hiding fear. A quiet stranger might be the most generous soul you'll ever meet. The true mark of wisdom isn't how quickly we judge, but how long we're willing to wait before doing so. It's choosing to see not just with our eyes, but with empathy. Let's now turn to something even closer to home: how we show up for ourselves, not just in our words, but in our appearance. 4. Neglecting personal appearance, when letting go sends the wrong message. If judging others too quickly can create distance, neglecting ourselves can quietly send a similar message, both to others and to our own hearts. Many people, as they enter their later years, begin to believe that physical appearance no longer matters. "I've earned the right not to care," they'll say. "People should see the real me, not my clothes or hair." And that's true. Our worth has nothing to do with fashion or perfection. But here's what decades of working with older adults has taught me. Appearance isn't about vanity, it's about vitality. It's not about pretending to be young. It's about showing the world that you're still here, still engaged, still honoring yourself. Think about this. How do you feel after getting a fresh haircut or putting on a clean, well-fitting shirt? It's not superficial, it's uplifting. It's a reminder that you still value the person in the mirror. On the other hand, when we stop grooming, wear clothes that make us feel invisible, or stop caring entirely, it often reflects an inner withdrawal that others can sense, even if they don't say it out loud. Family members may worry, but won't speak up. Friends might assume you're down or unwell. And worst of all, you may start to see yourself differently too, not as a person full of life, but as someone slowly fading into the background. Let's be clear, you don't need expensive clothes or youthful styling. Just small, thoughtful choices, combed hair, trimmed nails, comfortable but tidy clothes can restore a sense of dignity. These habits silently say, I'm still living. I still care. Here's a gentle suggestion. Pick one area to refresh: your hair, your wardrobe, your shoes. Not for anyone else. For you. You deserve to feel proud of the way you carry yourself at any age. Because the way we treat ourselves sets the tone for how others treat us, too. Aging gracefully is not about covering up. It's about continuing to show up. And speaking of how we're seen by others, let's talk about a silent expectation many of us carry. One that can backfire when we least expect it. The belief that age alone should automatically command respect. 5. Expecting respect without earning it. Why respect must be mutual. Just like our appearance speaks before we do, so too does our attitude, especially when it comes to how we expect others to treat us. There was a time when simply reaching a certain age seemed to guarantee respect. And for many of us, that still feels like it should be true. After all, we've lived, we've learned, we've endured. Shouldn't that be enough? But in today's world, respect is no longer handed out automatically. It's earned through presence, humility, and how we treat others, no matter their age. Younger generations were raised differently. They tend to challenge hierarchy, value authenticity, and believe that mutual understanding is the foundation for meaningful connection. That means expecting respect without offering it in return can easily come across as entitlement, or worse, as being out of touch. And here's the surprising truth. True respect doesn't come from being feared or obeyed. It comes from being genuinely admired. In my years of working with older adults, I've seen both sides. Those who demand deference often end up isolated. But those who listen, adapt, and show kindness, regardless of age, become people others naturally want to be around, learn from, and care for. Try shifting the perspective. Instead of entering a room assuming your age speaks for you, let your actions do the talking. Ask questions. Stay curious. Offer advice only when asked. These small shifts send a powerful message. I'm not here to dominate. I'm here to connect. You might be surprised how quickly younger people open up when they feel respected, not for their achievements, but simply for who they are. And in return, you'll receive a respect that's not rooted in obligation, but in genuine appreciation. So if you've ever felt hurt when someone younger didn't automatically defer to you, pause. Reflect. Maybe, just maybe, they were waiting for you to lead with grace rather than expectation. Because in the end, respect is never owed, it's invited. And the invitation begins with how we make others feel in our presence. Next, let's explore a quieter burden many of us carry far too long, one that weighs on the heart and dims the spirit, the tendency to hold on to grudges. 6. Holding on to grudges, the weight that steals your peace. If expecting respect without offering it back can create distance, then holding on to old grudges can quietly steal something even more precious, your inner peace. We've all been hurt by friends who betrayed us, by family who disappointed us, by life itself not going as planned. And as the years pass, those moments don't always fade. In fact, they often settle deep into our memory, becoming heavy stones we carry in silence. But here's what I've learned after years of sitting with older adults, some in their 60s, others in their 90s. Grudges don't protect us. They imprison us. Holding on may feel like strength, like justice. But in reality, it's a chain that keeps your heart tied to the very pain you want to leave behind. Ask yourself this: who or what are you still carrying? Maybe it's a sibling who let you down decades ago, a close friend who never said sorry, a spouse who hurt you and passed without resolution. And while you might think, I've moved on, if their memory still stings, still makes your chest tighten, you haven't fully let go. That doesn't mean you have to forget. It doesn't mean pretending it didn't happen. But forgiveness isn't about excusing behavior, it's about choosing freedom. And freedom feels lighter than you remember. It feels like peace after years of emotional noise. Here's a gentle practice. Write a letter to the person you're holding the grudge against. You don't need to send it. Just write. Say everything. Cry if you have to. Then, fold it and set it aside. Or burn it safely. Let it be your release. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. When you let go of old resentments, you make space for laughter, for deeper relationships, for moments of unexpected joy. You begin to live with an open heart again. And that, my friend, is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself in this stage of life. Let's now move into something many don't even recognize as a form of emotional resistance: the tendency to resist change, even when change could be the very thing that helps you grow. 7. Resisting change, the hidden barrier to growth. After we've begun to release the weight of old grudges, you might think we've cleared the path for peace. But there's another silent obstacle that often blocks us from moving forward: resisting change. And I get it. When you've spent decades building a life, your habits, your routines, your way of thinking, change can feel threatening, even disrespectful. Why should you adapt to a world that seems to be spinning faster than ever? Why should you learn a new phone app, change your eating habits, or adjust to someone else's way of doing things when yours worked just fine for 40 years? Here's why. Because growth doesn't stop when the birthdays pile up. It just asks more gently. I've met countless seniors who were struggling, not because of physical decline, but because they'd quietly cut themselves off from new experiences. They refused to try anything unfamiliar, and in doing so, they lost opportunities to connect, to stay curious, to feel alive. The world didn't shut them out, they slowly shut themselves in. Now think back. What's one small thing you resisted lately? Was it accepting help? Trying a new hobby? Learning technology so you could talk to your grandkids? Those little changes may seem irrelevant, but each one is a doorway to something brighter: connection, laughter, confidence. And when you step through that doorway, even once, you send yourself a message: I'm not done growing. Here's a challenge. Pick just one area of your life, something small, and meet it with openness. Maybe you download a simple meditation app. Maybe you sign up for a class at the senior center. Maybe you just say yes to something you would have dismissed last year. Let curiosity lead, not fear. Because change isn't your enemy. It's your invitation. An invitation to stay relevant. To keep discovering parts of yourself that were never needed before, but are now ready to shine. Next, we'll look at something even more tender: how avoiding emotional vulnerability might be keeping the most meaningful connections just out of reach. 8. Avoiding emotional vulnerability, the wall that blocks connection. When we resist change, we often do it to stay safe. But there's another, quieter way we try to protect ourselves: by avoiding emotional vulnerability. After all, by the time we reach our 60s, 70s, or beyond, we've lived through enough heartache, disappointment, and loss to know how much it hurts when we let people in and they don't stay, or worse, they wound us. So what do? We build walls. We say, I'm fine, when we're not. We keep conversations light, we laugh off loneliness, and we pretend we don't need support when we quietly wish someone would just sit beside us and listen. But here's what I've learned over the years, walking alongside older adults through life's later chapters: emotional walls don't protect us, they isolate us. And the longer we keep them up, the harder it becomes to feel truly seen, understood, and loved. Now, I know being vulnerable doesn't come easy. It means opening up to the possibility of being hurt again. But it also means opening up to something even more powerful: true connection. When we allow ourselves to express fear, sadness, or even joy without pretending, we create space for intimacy. And that's the very thing most of us long for: not just to be admired, but to be felt. Think about someone in your life right now who cares about you. Have you let them know what's really going on inside? Have you told them what you miss, what you hope for, or what you're afraid of? You might be surprised how freeing it is to say the thing you've been holding back. Vulnerability is not weakness. In fact, it's one of the final strengths we unlock as we age, when we finally realize we have nothing to prove and everything to gain by being real. So here's a gentle invitation. The next time you talk with someone you trust, share just one true thing you haven't said before. It doesn't have to be deep, just honest. Let them in, even just a little. Because that little opening might be all it takes to feel connected again. And now, we come to the final behavior on this list, perhaps the most bittersweet of all: becoming too attached to the past and unknowingly closing the door on the present. 9. Becoming too attached to the past, letting go to live fully. After learning to open up emotionally, there's one more space where many of us still hold on tightly, not just in our hearts, but in our identities: the past. There's a quiet comfort in remembering how things used to be, when the body was stronger, when family was near, when the world felt slower, simpler, kinder. And let's be honest, those were beautiful times. Our memories are sacred, and they've shaped us in every possible way. But here's the gentle truth I've seen play out in countless lives: when we cling too tightly to the past, we risk closing ourselves off from the life still unfolding in front of us. The danger isn't in remembering, it's in romanticizing. When we idealize the good old days, we often unintentionally diminish the value of the present moment. Think about it. How often do you hear or say things like, "It's not like it used to be," or "back in my day"? These phrases aren't wrong, but when they dominate our mindset, they trap us in nostalgia, making today feel like a pale imitation of yesterday. And the real tragedy? We stop showing up for the life we still have. What if, instead, we treated the present with the same reverence we give to our favorite memories? What if we believed that meaningful joy, new friendships, and personal growth were still possible even now? Because they are. I've seen people in their 70s fall in love again. I've watched 80-year-olds start writing their first book. I've heard laughter from hospice beds that rivaled any childhood giggle. Letting go of the past doesn't mean forgetting it. It means releasing its grip just enough so your hands are free to hold what's next. Take time each day to ground yourself in now. Notice the breeze on your skin. Really taste your coffee. Ask your grandchild what music they're listening to. Let curiosity replace comparison. Your story isn't over, it's just turning a new chapter. And the beauty is, you still get to choose how it's written. Now that we've explored these 9 powerful reminders, let's wrap this up with a heartfelt message, one you don't want to miss. And there we have it, the 9 habits we may unknowingly fall into as we age, and the gentle truths that can set us free from them. Aging doesn't have to feel like a loss of control. It's a gift, an opportunity to shed old burdens and step into the fullness of life. The behaviors we talked about today are not about judgment, they're about awareness. They're about giving ourselves the space to grow, to evolve, and to live fully at every stage of life. But change is a process, and the first step is always awareness. If any of these 9 points resonated with you, or if you found yourself nodding in agreement, I want to invite you to take a moment and reflect on the next small step you can take toward letting go of the habits that no longer serve you. It could be something as simple as embracing a change, reaching out to a loved one, or opening yourself up to a new experience. The beauty of aging gracefully is that it's never too late to start, no matter where you are on the journey. And before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Please take a moment to leave a comment below, whether it's to share your thoughts on the video or simply to let me know if one of these behaviors is something you're already working on changing. Your feedback means the world to me, and it helps me continue creating content that resonates with you. If you found this video helpful and insightful, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us reach more people who may need this kind of message in their lives. And if you're not already subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video designed to support your journey toward healthier, more fulfilling aging. Remember, it's not about how many years we've lived, it's about how we choose to live those years. And every step you take toward positive change, however small, is a victory. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it sparked something within you. Let's continue this conversation. I look forward to reading your comments and sharing more insights with you in the future. Until next time, take care of yourself, embrace the beautiful moments ahead, and know that you're not alone on this journey. Together, we can age gracefully and live fully.